You can hear me. Hi. Hi. Thank you so much for welcoming my son and I. We have been having the best time, and you're all so kind. We're so happy to be here. So I wanted to start with a quote. Self-care means giving the world the best of yourself instead of what is left of you. Let's really take that in for a second. What does it mean to give the world the best of you? What does that look like at home, at school, at work, and in your community? And have you even been introduced to the best version of you? I think after that last talk, we all met the best version of ourselves. Yes. The issue is that most of us look like this. Yes. And this definitely was me before. I remember when I was working in my corporate job in Canada over 12 years ago. I was feeling overwhelmed and stressed out. I was commuting, working a ton of hours, and I was commuting over 3 hours a day. And that was just on a regular day. Never mind if there was an accident or a snowstorm. In Canada, there's lots of snow. And I started working with my first life coach, and she had me setting goals like weekly walks in nature, monthly massages, and I had no idea that I could set goals like this. It was a huge game changer. And something amazing ended up happening. I became nicer. The more time I took for myself, the more fun I was to be around. I became more grounded and confident. I became more patient and also less stressed. And for a recovering type A personality like me, that was huge. And I am convinced that this is my life lesson, is being able to take care of myself and do what I love in all areas of life. And I have to remind myself of this over and over and over again, and that it's okay to do these things. And when I do, everything in my life flows better. From business results, from relationships to parenting, and everything else in between. And I love this quote. I can't remember who said it, but I love it. To give from our saucer and not our teacup. So we want to give from the overflow and not from what's inside the cup. We want to give and fill up our cup first so that we do have more to give. And then everything in life flows better when we do this. And we are our choices. And what ends up happening when we take care of ourselves is we actually become more creative and more resourceful. And this is where it impacts everything in our lives that we're trying to create and achieve. And this is because we will have slowed down long enough in order for ourselves to receive those next steps. Our decision making actually becomes more powerful, more impactful, and more resourceful. And it's amazing, all of the solutions we start to see that are right there waiting for us. And so when we're practicing self-care, what we're really doing is, actually before we do that, I want to take you guys through a quick exercise that's really powerful. So go ahead and close your eyes. This will just take a minute. Go ahead and close your eyes, and I want you to think about a time when you felt at your best. Could even be right now, with everything we just did, when you were feeling confident, when everything was flowing. And think about how your decision making is from this place. Good. Now go ahead and open your eyes. And now we're going to think of a different time. So go ahead, close your eyes again. And I want you to think about a time when you weren't feeling so great, when you're feeling stressed out, overwhelmed, feeling like something has to give, maybe even feeling a little bit depressed. Now think about how your decisions are from this place. Good. You can go ahead, open your eyes, and you'll notice a direct contrast, right? Your decision making is so much different depending on the state of mind that you're making your decisions from. So I don't want to leave you hanging. Close your eyes again. Go back to the first time when you were feeling amazing, everything was flowing. Good. Good. So I was working with a client a few years ago, and she was feeling really overwhelmed and stressed out. She was going to school, she was running a business, she was also working, and we were approaching a weekend, and she was just going to plow right through. She was going to do all the work that she had to do because she didn't feel like she had enough time. She had to get everything done. And I said, whoa, hold on, we need to stop. You need to make some time for yourself. And so she did, thankfully, and she took some time that weekend and she went and walked her dogs in nature for hours without her phone. Imagine that. She left her phone at home. And when she got back, lo and behold, in her inbox was an email from someone who wanted to work with her, a new client. So this works. Per the law of attraction, what we put out, we will get back. And so because like attracts like, and so if we put out a crazy, stressed out, overwhelmed energy, we are going to get more back in our lives to feel stressed out and overwhelmed about. On the flip side, if we put out a relaxed and happy energy, we are going to get more back in our lives to feel relaxed and happy about. And so what we're really doing deep down when we put ourselves out there and when we are really taking care of ourselves and doing what we love, what we're really doing is saying that we value ourselves deep down, that we're worthy enough and that we deserve. And this is the energy that we're putting out that we will get more back of, that validation of feeling worthy enough and to be valued. And so every single decision that we make is coming from this place of either love or fear, abundance or lack, of connection or disconnection, and therefore that impacts the results that we are creating or not creating in our lives. And so we are our choices, and every single decision has an effect. So what keeps us from being happy, from doing what we love in all areas of life, and from really valuing ourselves deep down? Because when we operate from that place, we are limitless. Everything and anything is possible. Well, after I was studying for years about how our thoughts create our reality, I was able to make some really great things happen, and I truly believe deep down that we can be, do, and have anything in life. But I was also struggling in other areas. In other areas, I wasn't able to make things happen. And I realized that something was missing. And it wasn't until I started studying belief systems that everything in my life started to change. All of my big dreams started coming true. From creating my business and growing it to the level I wanted, to moving to the beach in a new country with my family. And so today, what I want to share with you guys is more about belief systems so that you too can see what might be holding you back from really creating what you're wanting to create. And so our belief systems actually lie in our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind is steering the ship. It literally dictates the lens that we are seeing the world through, and therefore how we're making decisions, how we're showing up, and the results we're creating or not creating. Now, the subconscious mind, unfortunately, does not have the ability to reason or accept or reject information the way the conscious mind does. So the conscious mind can literally hear information and go, nah, that doesn't really sound right. I'm not going to buy into that. Whereas the subconscious mind does not have the ability to do that. And the way beliefs go into our subconscious mind is one of two ways. So the first is by hearing the same idea over and over and over again. So through consistent repetition. The second is through an emotional reaction. So anytime something happens in our lives and we react with an emotional response, the decisions we're making in that moment automatically go into the subconscious mind. So just to give you a really fun example, there's this story that I like to call the ham in the pan. So a husband and wife are preparing a ham for dinner. Comes like this, and the wife cuts the ends off the ham. And the husband says, "Why do you prepare the ham that way?" And she says, "I don't know, that's just the way I've always done it." And that's the way my mom did it. So they asked her mom, why do you cut the ends off the ham when you go to prepare it? And she said, I don't know. That's just the way I've always done it, and that's the way my mom did it. So they asked the grandma, why do you cut the ends off the ham when you go to prepare it? And she goes, oh, that's easy. It's because the pan was too small. So this is how beliefs get passed down without any of us questioning why we believe what we do. And they can come from a multitude of sources, from grandparents, from parents, from teachers, and even from communities, from the media, and our countries. And so we want to start to take a look at why it is we believe what we do. Now, in terms of the emotional reaction piece, so I was working with a client a few years ago, and she was really trying to grow her business, but she was feeling stuck. And she had a lot of anxiety when she went to put herself out there in a sales situation. And when we're in business for ourselves, we're also in sales. And so she was having a lot of anxiety. And we were able to trace that feeling back to when she was 4 years old. And she was at an event with her mom, who was a prominent political figure in the community. And she was sitting off to the side eating a donut that somebody had given her. And she didn't want the rest of it, so she was going to just put it in the planter to the side. Well, out of nowhere, as she's about to put it in, her mom comes and slaps away her hand. And in that moment, she decided that in order to get love and approval in her life, she needed to shrink back, stay small, and keep the peace and be quiet. So in her adult world, this belief was dictating and running the show. And so anytime she tried to put herself out there, she felt a lot of anxiety because she was afraid deep down she would not have that love and approval. And this is where I see people getting stuck in their old stories and beliefs all of the time. So from decisions they've made as a child that are still dictating how they're making decisions as an adult. And so we want to start to shift this. We want to, actually, before I even get into that, I want to share a quick story about myself. As I started digging these beliefs out, I came across a real doozy in my own life. So in Canada, when you're in high school, if you want to go to university, you need to take all advanced courses the whole way through. There's different levels you can take. And when I was in grade 9, the science teacher that I had pulled my mom and I in for a meeting and basically said I wasn't smart enough to continue on in science and I needed to drop down a level. Well, in my family, it wasn't if I was going to university, it was when I was going to university. So this was not an option to drop down. And so I thought to myself, okay, your class is boring. I will start to pay attention. And so I did, and I was fine. And I took science all the way through high school, and I went to university, and I did just fine. But a part of me, deep down, that I wasn't even aware of, accepted what she said to be true because I had an emotional reaction to it. So deep down, I accepted that on some level I was not smart enough. And this then dictated other decisions I made in my life. And so I, chose programs of what I would study around it. It impacted how I would later show up in my corporate job, with holding back for fear of not being smart enough. And it wasn't until I started digging these things out that I realized that was the belief deep down that was running the show. So imagine accepting a belief that wasn't even true, right? It wasn't even true. And I even proved her wrong, and I still accepted it deep down because I had that emotional reaction to it. So we need to start looking at what are those beliefs that we have accepted to be true deep down. And the way to do that is to start looking at what you believe right now that's keeping you where you are. And this is really where we get to move from being a victim to taking responsibility for all areas of life. We get to own both the good and the bad. And this is both humbling and empowering. And from there, what we want to do is use our conscious mind to choose the belief that we would like to have instead. So what is that empowered belief you would like to have and that you need to have in order to make your big dreams and goals come true? Because this is where you get to choose, and we can now align our conscious mind with our subconscious mind in order to do this. And from there, what we want to do is say this belief over and over and over again, and that's the consistent repetition. And we also want to attach that emotional response to it as well. And so we want to envision, what does it feel like to have this belief? How do we make decisions? What will it feel like to create the life that we're really wanting and achieve those goals and dreams? And, oh, that's the captain steering the ship. So we want to shine a light on these limiting beliefs that are holding us back, because they cannot survive in the light. It's like turning on a light switch and bringing the light to it. So we want to shine a light on these limiting beliefs that are holding us back. And then we want to, through that consistent repetition, say over and over and over again what that new belief is and create that emotional response with it. So for me, the mantra I would say at the time was, my success is certain. And I would have this on sticky notes all around the house. I even wrote on the bathroom mirror with a Sharpie. And I wanted to be submerged in this belief and have my focus be on that, because what we focus on grows. And from there, what I did was I attached that emotional response to it as well. So I would envision myself with having the success that I wanted. And I also had to define what that was for me, because success is different for all of us, right? And so I got really clear on what that meant for me. It involved a lot of freedom and being able to make choices. And then I would envision what that meant for myself as well as my family. And from there, what I also did, and this is really important, is started making decisions from where I wanted to be versus where I was. So I like to call this act as if. So it's acting as if I already had that belief. And so that then I could make decisions from that place instead of where I was. And that's when everything around me started to change. And it's kind of one of those things where what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? So we want to put that belief out there, even though we don't quite believe it yet. And then we want to start making decisions from where we want to be instead. And we start to create experiences in our lives that actually reinforce that belief. And then we start to believe it even more. So for me, all these things started showing up. Opportunities that were already there, actually, funny enough. I remember one time that I wanted to speak more. And I kept thinking, you need to check your email. And I kind of just put it off. You know that voice that reminds us to do things, but we put it off? That's the voice we need to listen to. And so I finally listened to it a few months later and looked in my email, and sure enough, buried deep down was an email from someone that actually led to 6 speaking engagements. So the opportunities are already there for us. We just need to start seeing them and feeling good enough to be able to receive them. And so this is the work that we must be willing to do. It can be really uncomfortable to look at why we believe what we do and where those beliefs come from, but I can promise you that it is worth it, because your dreams lie on the other side of the discomfort. And you are worth it. Your dreams are worth it, and you need to take a stand for your dreams because nobody else will. And imagine if everybody in the world was doing this, where they were working on improving themselves, doing what they love, operating from an empowered belief system, and therefore making empowered decisions as a result. The world would be so much different. There would be way less negativity and more positivity, much less crime and more connection. more love and less fear, and definitely more peace and less war. So now is the time to make this decision, is to start working on yourselves, to start doing what you love in all areas, to take a stand for your dreams. And this will have a massive ripple effect. Not only does it benefit you, but everybody around you. And this is how we're going to change the world, is through one empowered decision at a time. Thank you.